close your eyes. Imagine someone looking directly into your soul and saying, you place immense value on being liked and admired. Sometimes you're your own worst critic. You pride yourself on independent thinking and demand proof before believing anything. Did that feel eerily accurate? It should. You've just experienced a psychological trap that has ensnared millions of people for over a century. These are Barnum statements, seemingly personal revelations that are actually universal truths in disguise. This psychological weapon takes its name from one of America's most brilliant and ruthless manipulators, Phineas Taylor Barnum. While the world remembers him as the creator of the greatest show on earth, the truth behind this master of deception is far more chilling than any circus act he ever staged. Picture New York City, 1842. Summer heat radiates off cobblestone streets as newspaper editors receive letter after mysterious letter, all describe encounters with the same enigmatic figure, Dr. J. Griffin, a distinguished English scientist from the British Lyceum of Natural History. But Griffin wasn't just any scientist. Witnesses whispered of his incredible collection, and at its heart lay something that would either revolutionize science or expose humanity's desperate need to believe in magic, an actual mermaid. Remember, this was an era when our understanding of marine life was limited. Charles Darwin had only recently published his theories. The idea that mermaids might exist wasn't entirely beyond possibility. Enter P.T. Barnum, a man whose ambition burned as bright as the lighthouse lamp he'd soon mount atop his Broadway museum. When word reached him about Griffin's mermaid, something ignited behind his eyes. He had to possess it. What followed was theatre at its finest. Griffin refused to sell. The two men clashed publicly. Their dispute splashed across newspaper headlines. In a moment of apparent desperation, Barnum revealed he'd already commissioned beautiful illustrations of the mermaid, a seductive sea maiden that would make any man's heart race. When Griffin still refused, Barnum handed these images to the press. New York City went mad with anticipation. Every conversation, every newspaper, every street corner buzzed with speculation. Finally, Dr. Griffin surrendered to the pressure, agreeing to exhibit his precious specimen for just 1 week. The day of the reveal arrived. Hundreds of people pressed forward, hearts pounding with expectation. They had seen the beautiful illustrations. They had read the promises. They were about to witness history. Instead, they found themselves staring into the face of horror. The creature before them was a nightmare-made flesh, 3 feet of grotesque reality, shriveled, hair-covered, its mouth frozen in what seemed like an eternal scream of agony. This wasn't the enchanting sea maiden from the illustrations. This was something that belonged in the depths of hell. But the real horror was yet to come. Dr. J. Griffin, the distinguished English scientist, the man who had captivated a nation, had never existed. He was an actor named Levi Lyman, one of Barnum's closest friends. Every letter, every encounter, every passionate argument had been pure theatre. And the mermaid that had drawn thousands of paying customers? A grotesque joke. Monkey torso crudely sewn to a fishtail created by fishermen on the other side of the world and sold to a gullible sea captain for $6,000. Here's what makes your blood run cold. Barnum knew. He had paid an expert to examine the creature before ever putting it on display. He looked into the face of that fake horror, saw the crude stitching, felt the dried flesh, and still chose to take money from thousands of trusting souls. To understand how a man becomes capable of such calculated cruelty, we must journey back to rural Connecticut, 1810. Here, a 6-year-old boy named Phineas was about to learn the most devastating lesson of his life. Picture young Barnum, eyes bright with dreams, listening as his grandfather painted visions of his future. Someday, boy, you'll inherit Ivy Island, the most valuable land in all of Connecticut. For 6 years, this promise consumed the child's imagination. He saw himself as a future landowner, wealthy and respected. On his 12th birthday, the moment finally arrived. Family and friends gathered for the grand reveal, their faces barely containing their excitement. As they approached Ivy Island, young Barnum's heart raced with anticipation. Then came the laughter, cruel, echoing laughter that would haunt him forever. His valuable inheritance was nothing but a fetid swamp, worthless and mosquito-infested. 6 years of dreams shattered in an instant. But here's what chills the soul. After the initial shock, 12-year-old Barnum began laughing too. In that moment, something fundamental broke inside him. Or perhaps something darker was born. He learned that cruelty could masquerade as humor, that the pain of others could be entertainment. At 25, Barnum's path crossed with tragedy itself. Joyce Heth was an elderly enslaved woman, her body ravaged by time and suffering. She was blind, toothless, her hands twisted with arthritis, barely able to move. But to promoter R.W. Lindsay, she was something else entirely, a gold mine. He claimed she had nursed George Washington as a baby, an impossible claim that would make her 161 years old. Barnum couldn't buy Joyce outright due to anti-slavery laws, but his cunning mind found a loophole. He could lease her, like property, like an object to be used and discarded. What followed was one of the most heartbreaking chapters in American entertainment history. This broken, elderly woman was paraded from town to town like a circus animal. 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, she sat on display while crowds gawked at her suffering. When audiences seemed unimpressed by her obvious pain, Barnum concocted an even more degrading lie. Joyce wasn't human at all, he claimed, but an elaborate mechanical puppet. In February 1836, after 10 brutal months in Barnum's care, Joyce Heth died. You might think death would finally grant her peace. You would be wrong. Even in death, Barnum wasn't finished with Joyce Heth. Skeptics had questioned her age throughout her exhibitions, so Barnum announced something so grotesque it defies comprehension: a public autopsy. Imagine the depravity, selling tickets to watch a woman's body be dissected for entertainment. More than 1,500 people paid to witness this violation. They filled the theater, eager to see Dr. David Rogers cut open the corpse of someone who had already suffered enough for several lifetimes. The autopsy revealed the truth. Joyce had been perhaps 80 years old, not 161. The newspapers exploded with the revelation. Had Barnum finally been exposed? Never. With breathtaking audacity, he claimed he'd been deceived all along, then suggested they'd autopsied the wrong body, that the real Joyce was alive and touring Europe. The public, incredibly, seemed to accept this absurd explanation. With his museum established, Barnum perfected his formula of spectacle and deception. He presented Charlie Stratton, a man with dwarfism, as General Tom Thumb, claiming he was 11 years old when he was actually in his 20s and English when he was American. He exhibited Josephine Clothulia, the bearded lady, orchestrating a lawsuit that questioned her gender, a legal battle that brought humiliating medical examinations, but also unprecedented publicity. Later investigations revealed Barnum had paid the plaintiff to file the suit. Even Queen Victoria, after meeting General Tom Thumb, wrote in her diary that she pitied the young performer and wished he could be properly cared for. Even royalty could sense something troubling about Barnum's exhibitions. In 1865, fire destroyed Barnum's museum. Tragically, 2 beluga whales were boiled alive in their tanks, though human lives were spared. The famous Fiji Mermaid was lost forever. Perhaps seeking redemption, or perhaps sensing a new audience to perform for, Barnum entered politics. He campaigned for black equality and voting rights, a stunning reversal for a man who had owned slaves and exhibited African Americans as subhuman curiosities. Was this genuine remorse, or simply another calculated performance? When he ran for Congress and lost, Barnum returned to what he knew best: entertainment. Barnum died in 1891, but his ghost walks among us still. Every time you read a horoscope that feels so accurate, every time a social media quiz claims to reveal your true personality, every time you're drawn to click on sensational headlines, you're falling victim to the Barnum effect. From reality TV that promises unscripted drama to political campaigns that claim to uniquely understand your struggles, Barnum's fundamental discovery echoes through our digital age. Tell people what they want to hear about themselves, and they'll forgive any deception. But remember the price of that entertainment. Remember Joyce Heth, who died exhausted and exploited. Remember General Tom Thumb and Josephine Clofulia, reduced to their most unusual characteristics for public consumption. Remember the thousands who paid good money to see something real and received only lies. The next time someone promises to read your soul, to reveal your destiny, to show you something amazing, pause, listen carefully, ask yourself, whose voice is really speaking, and what would they gain from your belief? P.T. Barnum called his lies humbugs, harmless fun that hurt no one, but the scars left by his entertainment are still visible if you know where to look. The question is, are you willing to see them?